What's going on, guys? This is the Edge DFS. We're doing Showdown, Monday Night Football, Seahawks versus Eagles. My name is Tyson Smith. I'm joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, what's going on, man? How are you? It's probably cold as shit where you're at, right?
Yeah, man, we're getting our first snow here in Indiana. Well, I guess Ingalls, Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. I'm sure Indiana's had some snow already, but it's going to be interesting. It's the first one. I'm excited because my daughter's old enough to go play in it, so hopefully the kids can go play in it later today. But we'll see. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's 45 degrees here. I can't complain about that. In LA, it's a little chilly for LA. How is it living in the snow now? Being from Arizona, it must be a little strange, right?
Honestly, I like it, dude. I don't know how to explain it any other way. Like Arizona, even California, you don't get seasons. You just get like shit is dying, and then shit is not dying. And out here, like fall, it's crazy. Like you have different colored leaves and shit. Like it's weird to say, like weird to think is cool. But I mean, I'd be driving to work and be like, oh shit, it's kind of pretty out.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, guys. Let's talk quickly. We're gonna do a quick little recap. Just a minute or so. How did you do on Sunday? Anything to point out there? And how did you do last night in our showdown? I know a lot of times we try to get to the show, and we don't really talk about the previous slate. But let's talk about it a little bit. I mean, if you guys have been watching the show, you kind of want to hear how we did. We obviously want to hear how you did in the previous slates. So Ellie, how'd you do for the main slate? How'd you do for Sunday Night Football?
Main slate, I did all right. I had a pretty good opportunity to take down a couple contests. Fell just short. I think my highest finish was in 5th place in a single entry.
Nice.
And then I got like 45th with a single bullet or a single dart into one of the $3.20 maxes. So
Nice.
I mean, there was some money won. I was really heavy on Tyreek Hill and Derrick Henry.
Good.
So my lineups weren't even great, but because having both those guys it was worth 100 points, and then I had Patrick Mahomes, and I had some other decent plays too. Like one of my best lineups had a 0 from the Browns defense. So I mean, I swapped them out with the Falcons, and it's a takedown.
Dude, some weird defenses scoring. Like who's playing these? Who's playing Atlanta? Who's playing some of these defenses? It's very strange.
Well, I actually did play Atlanta, just not in some of the right lineups. So they were 0.27% owned.
Dude, that's insane.
0.27% owned. Yeah, it's 28 points. Like, what are you supposed to do? And then the Panthers too. Like, I mean, I think they still had like plays. 14 or 15 points.
Yeah,
the same guy.
Same dude. That's insane.
It was some stupid record that he broke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, main slate went fine. Made some profit there. Sunday Night Football didn't go too great for me. I almost broke even, but at the end of the day, I took a stand on fading Allen Robinson, and that doesn't work, especially when that guy ends up being the optimal captain.
He's the optimal captain. So, It started looking good though. It started looking. Look, there's garbage time is tough. There's no way to predict. There's no way to project garbage time. We just don't know. I faded Montgomery. He had one good run at the beginning of the game. Barely saw the ball, and then he scored that touchdown. He was in the optimal. So both the guys we ended up deciding to fade for the most part. I mean, I had a lot of Allen Robinson. But I didn't play him at captain. But I played a lot of Allen Robinson. So look, when we're talking about our fades of the night, when we're talking about our captain choices, don't just go blindly fading both of the guys we talk about. Listen to why we're fading them and decide, okay, does this work within my game plan? Don't just randomly click buttons and say, oh, I can't have any Montgomery or Allen. You know what I mean? Any advice to anybody watching the show? How do you handle our picks without just blindly just listening to exactly what we say?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that I do want to call out. The first thing specifically is first of all, I don't recommend going with both our fades. You can usually do one or the other in a certain lineup simply because our strategy is a little bit different on this show. We're looking for a medium-priced captain. Yeah. And that usually detracts a lot of ownership. So if you have a captain that's 4 or 5%, really under 6-7% in ownership, then you have a lot of flexibility in the flex position. So you don't need to worry about us getting so much more different than you would on with Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Jones or Devontae Adams at captain last night. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is Mitch Trubisky was projected closer to 50% ownership, 45% ownership, and almost 10% in the captain spot.
Yeah.
Real projections came in closer to 35 to 40, but 5%.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
yeah.
the same thing could be said for Allen Robinson. I wasn't expecting him to be 33% owned.
No, yeah, he was super low.
And then whatever he was in the captain spot. Look, I don't care. I don't give a shit if he's my fade of the night. If that's the ownership for a top player like that, I mean, then it's something worth taking a stab on. So that's on me for last night. I didn't adjust based off of some of the ownership trends, but again, there was a lot going on yesterday with main slate. So it's something I'll need to keep an eye on for next week's Sunday night game. But look, when you're building these lineups, look at ownership. If you have access to ownership projections, if Allen Robinson was really going to be under 35%, then
that's a lock
for
almost.
Sure double the field. Yeah. Like so that's really kind of my point there. But I understand not everybody has access to ownership projections. So do your best and look at some trends. And I know there's guys like Osimo who do free NFL showdown projections from time to time. Keep your eye on that.
Yeah.
Follow Twitter. Right, there's all kinds of stuff you can get for free online.
Yeah,
and it just gives you a better edge. So that's really kind of my advice. And how about you, man? How'd you end up finishing up?
I actually profited a little bit on Sunday night, thankfully. The Jamal Williams, just exactly what we said. Jamal Williams in garbage time, like literally we said this, that Jamal Williams is going to end up getting some extra carries. If they're leading by X amount of points, there's no reason to have Aaron Jones in the game. Jamal Williams got that late touchdown, which really freaking helped. That propelled me into some decent...
Was he he was less than 20%, wasn't he, Jamal Williams?
He was super low owned. Yeah. And
I see. I still don't get that. I thought the ownership projection was going to be fucked up, right? I figured by the time we get to lock, he'd be closer to 35 to 40% owned. There's no reason he should have been 3,400. Look, and I understand that touchdown gave him the edge.
Exactly. So look, garbage time can be good. It can be bad. It's random. It's just random. It's showdown. Like you're not going to live long playing showdown. That's just all I can say.
And keep in mind, right? Like Mitch Trubisky came back. Like we had no idea what he was going to do. We got Blazer from fucking Dodgeball as their offensive coordinator. So I don't know what they were planning to do.
Well, dude.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
if Cole Kmet and Allen Robinson catch those touchdown passes on the opening drive, it's a whole different game. Momentum is very important.
If Mitch Trubisky hit Cole Kmet on that one wide open zero blitz, right?
That too.
He hit the wrong shoulder, right? Cole Kmet could have easily had 2 touchdowns for like 60 yards.
It could have easily been 7-6 in the first quarter, and then we're talking about a little bit of a different game because of momentum. And look, these people are human. If they're down 28-7 or whatever, 28-3 or whatever it was, they're just not going to play as hard. It's just, and you see that on the other side. If a team is up by a bunch, you get a bunch of garbage time touchdowns and receptions and passes. So, anyways, we'll move on to tonight's game. You got to have a short memory sometimes with a showdown slate. So Seattle Seahawks, they're playing in Philadelphia against the Eagles. This is, dare I say, this has some playoff implications for the Eagles?
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
I mean, they have a shot at this point. They're behind the Giants. I don't know about you, but I wasn't projecting the Giants to be in first place at this point of the year. NFC East. I mean, there's a lot on the line here. There really is. There's some relative news here with potentially maybe Jalen Hurts getting a couple of snaps. We'll get into that in a little bit. You got some injuries on the Seahawks side. But overall speaking, I think that we're getting a lot of players back. Zach Ertz probably not going to play. We'll get into that. But for now, let's look at the Vegas side of things. So Seattle is favored in this game. Obviously, they're road favorites. Minus 284, 74% win probability. They have a 27.5 implied total, and they're 6.5 favorites. 6.5 point favorites. The total in this game is 48.5. I didn't notice any weather issues. It's probably just going to be cold as shit. I don't think that really affects things in football much. I mean, maybe a little bit more running the ball, but nothing to even note. So, Ellie, looking at these records, looking at the win probabilities, looking at the spread, anything jump out to you? Do you think this is kind of where, like that Washington game, we were like, whoa, this is why? Like, we had a firm take on that. When it comes to this game, I would tend to more agree with this, and actually maybe it's a little bit understated. This could be a blowout. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you on this. Look, I haven't watched much Philly this year, and for good reason, but they're pretty fucking bad.
Yeah.
Like last week, they were supposed to have the return of all their offense, right? They had Jalen Reagor back, they had Alshon Jeffrey, they had Miles Sanders, and they had Daniel Goddard or Dallas Goddard, whatever the hell his name is, and then Richard Rodgers ends up being one of the top fantasy players from them last week. So, and that might be a bit of an exaggeration again. I don't take time out of my day to watch Carson Wentz throw to the ground. So, look, man, they're a bad team. They're really bad. They have some issues with the offensive line. Philly still has a solid defensive line on that side of the ball, but I mean, you're gonna be a run stopping team, I guess, when I don't know. They suck. I really think that we could see a little bit more movement towards Seattle's way. That's the only thing that I can think of. But I'm right there with you. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a pretty bad blowout.
So
Carson Wentz will probably end up getting hurt in this game, to be completely honest with you, man.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's about that time of year where he usually does get hurt. So maybe. I mean. This is tough with Philadelphia. I think the Bears are better than the Eagles. What do you think about that?
Say that again.
I think the Bears
I think the
Bears are better than the Eagles, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not saying much. I'm just trying to put some perspective here, because we saw how bad the Bears were last night. We saw how bad the Bears have been the past few weeks. I like the Giants a lot more than the Eagles. The Giants have a better offense. They have a better quarterback, in my opinion. I know that's look. I like Wentz. I think he's not a terrible quarterback. I think he's not washed. I think he's just in a bad situation. So would he be better on another team, a better team? Yeah, absolutely. But I think the Giants are a better team. They have a better offense, even without Saquon Barkley, which is saying a whole lot. I think
Washington's the best team in the division right now.
For sure.
They have a solid defense. They have the weapons at
veteran quarterback,
a weapon at wide receiver. Yeah, and Alex Smith is he's one of the most efficient quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah,
he's up there with quarterback efficiency. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he plays a bunch of shitty teams. So it's making out good for them. I'm right there with you though. I still think the Giants are number 2 right now. That's assuming Daniel Jones has the ability to come back pretty quickly. I don't know what his injury ended up being, but so just real quick, right? We were talking about Carson Wentz. So the third, if you just go to Google and start typing in "has Carson," it'll just immediately pop up Wentz played a full season. It's the third most searched topic.
That's hilarious.
For Carson Wentz.
Is the answer to that no? I think it is.
It's yes. He had one season last year. He played the full season.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into our audio segments here. I'm calling this from the horse's mouth.
I just want to know from the horse's mouth, what is the dealio?
All right. So we're gonna hear from Pete Carroll. Just a general. This is something I kind of didn't realize. They played on Thursday night the previous week. Now they're playing on Monday night. So keeping it.
Hey, this was really a good opportunity for our club to take advantage of the way the schedule fell, the Thursday game and then going to Monday, and we were able to sort out the week and give these guys plenty of time to get their legs back, and so it's very fortunate, that this time of the season you get that. You can see it in the guys in the way they practiced and the way they ran around that. They're feeling pretty good, pretty strong. We get a few guys back too for this ball game. Thankfully, it's been a while. Not everybody's there, but it's a good showing, and so you guys will ask about the different ones. But like that, we got this week done. We're taking off for the East Coast, and it's a big trip Monday night, and all that. It'll be a blast. So we're looking forward to it.
So they got sort of a mini bye week here, almost. You know what I mean? Like playing on Thursday, getting a big win against the Cardinals, getting to go home for a minute, having Thanksgiving, enjoy. Like, I don't know how many days they had off, but I feel like they're going to be energized. They're getting Chris Carson back. They're getting some guys back. I mean, playing on Monday night is going to be pretty nice. I know they have to travel, but I think that does affect things a little bit. And considering they're already heavily favored, they're obviously a better team. I think that just gives them even more an advantage. So let's hear a little bit about potentially. This is David Moore. He's questionable. He's always a nice little option to get into 20 or 30% of your lineups.
David just felt a little something yesterday, so we just got to make sure he's okay. He thinks he's going to play and isn't concerned about it. One of our guys had the exact same thing. Ryan Neal had it a while back and was fine with it. So we're kind of keeping our fingers crossed.
So it seems like he should play. David Moore, obviously keep your ears open. Stay on Twitter today. And obviously, by the way, we're recording this on Monday in the morning. So we have some pretty up-to-date news today. So let's listen to Doug Peterson. So Lane Johnson was injured, and let's hear a little bit about their offensive line and what's going on with them.
Can you confirm the report that Jason Peters is moving to right guard and Jordan Mailata will be your left tackle?
Yes.
And what changed since you told us on Monday that Peters was your left tackle moving forward?
Lane Johnson. With obviously the news with Lane Johnson, we and in some of the conversations that obviously you guys don't have privy information to, or maybe you do. I don't know. But earlier in the week, these conversations led us to make these decisions. And I'm excited for JP. He's excited. A great opportunity.
All right. Anyways, we there's a mix up in the offensive line. They're mixing things up a little bit. Let's hear a little bit about Zach Ertz. Don't think he's going to play, but let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
I just wanted to follow up on Zach Ertz. It seemed like you were kind of hopeful earlier in the week that he'd be able to play. Was there any kind of setback, or is it just taking a little longer?
No setback. I was optimistic, and you just get through a week of practice and really just feeling Zach out too a little bit, and there's no setback. There's no nothing. Just the fact that he probably won't be ready.
So, that's good for Goddard. And even if Ertz did play, Goddard's still going to get his reps. So one last thing to listen to. There's been some news reports. There's been some Twitter reports that Jalen Hurts is going to get some more snaps. He's going to get some, a couple packages his way. Let's hear exactly what Doug Peterson has to say about that.
Did Jalen Hurts get more reps with the first team offense this week? And are you more open to the possibility of giving him a series or two on offense?
As far as the plays and the snaps, I mean, he hasn't gotten any more than he would get throughout the course of the week normally since we've been playing him, and I'm not going to reveal any game plans with him at this time.
What are your thoughts on that, Ellie? Is he fucking with us? Is he keeping the cards close to his chest? Do you think that Hurts can get any time?
Yeah, I mean, I think he could quietly end up being a Jacoby Brissett type guy from yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, we saw Naheem Hines get vultured twice on the goal line.
Yeah, God.
Jacoby Brissett's 1 yard touchdown runs, which honestly probably helped me a little bit just because Naheem Hines was so chalky, right?
Yeah.
But look, first of all, I'm shocked that Doug Peterson still has a job. I think he's still holding on to the fact that he brought that Super Bowl to Philly.
Yeah.
But at this point, like, I don't really think he knows what he plans on doing with him.
Yeah.
But look, Jalen Hurts he's a guy that can play the RPO. That's this entire offense. The entire offense is built off the RPO. And Hurts has a championship pedigree. I mean, where Carson Wentz go to college, like fucking Wisconsin State, South Dakota. Like I mean, look, you're not talking about these guys with winning pedigrees, right?
You're talking about? Did you say we're talking about Hurts, right? This is another.
You son of a bitch.
Ellie's obsessed with Alabama players. We gotta play a little sound every time he mentions an Alabama player. All right.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, when we were talking about Washington the other day, I forgot to bring up, like, their entire defensive line is from Alabama. Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and then there was another guy. Like, their entire defensive line. And, look, man, you need defensive players. That's where you go.
Yeah.
But anyways,
right.
Yeah, no, I think Jalen Hurts is in a good spot. We'll get to it here in a second, but I think he's very much going to get some run tonight.
Let's get over to the injuries here. So Zach Ertz is doubtful. He's not playing. It's just not going to happen. Don't consider him at all. Deshaun Jackson's out. Then you got David Moore, questionable. You heard about that. Travis Homer's out. Greg Olson's out with a foot. Then Freddie Swain, questionable as well. Not that I would suggest playing him. And you also have Freddie Swain. He actually will be playing. According to Pete Carroll, looks like Freddie Swain will be playing. So just keep an eye on that if you're considering getting real deep in a tournament situation. All right. Anything else to add to this? Do you want to just get into it, bro?
Let's just get into it.
All right, let's just do it.
Break it down. Degenerate into something cool.
All right, we're breaking this down. Let's start out at quarterback here. You got Russell Wilson at 10.6K, priced up quite a bit. I feel like that's a decent price for him. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if he was over 13. Carson Wentz at 10.4, I don't get it. I think he should be 9.8, 9.9. He's a little priced up. And then you got Jalen Hurts at 7,200 if you want to consider him. I would only consider him in large field tournaments and consider him for a potential, 2 or 3 plays that are actually significant. Maybe a trick play pass and maybe a quarterback sneak here and there. I don't like him at 7,200. If he was at 6K, which a lot of these backup quarterbacks usually end up being, then yeah, it's worth considering. But 7,200 is quite a bit. How are you handling Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz? Do you have to get all Russell Wilson here because he's projected at like 85% or something like that ownership today?
Yeah, I don't know, man. You see, the Eagles, their one good thing is stopping the run, so I think Russell Wilson's going to need to get involved. This team, again, with Seattle, the team goes whatever direction Russell Wilson goes. I understand Chris Carson's back. They're going to try and establish the run. But again, that's Philly's, it's the only thing they do well. So I fully anticipate them to, play with some pride at some point. So hopefully that'll have an impact on the running game. But I think Russell Wilson is pretty much just, if you can get him in your lineup, you put him in your lineup. If build with him kind of locked in as a part of your core. I do think at 85% he is worth a couple fades, but again, that's going to be game script specific.
Yeah.
Just because he, this is a slate where you probably are going to need both quarterbacks. And that's including Carson Wentz. Now, I'm not going to be heavy on exposure to him. But I'm going to have enough. I'll probably be even with the field or close to 40%. Just because he can go complete shit. He can do okay.
Yeah.
But against a terrible Seattle defense, there is the potential that he can at least put up 250 and 2 or 3 touchdowns, and that will be optimal.
Yeah.
So I think you have to kind of be careful with him. I don't like his pricing, so that actually may kind of shift some ownership off of him.
Well, listen.
And kind of like
listen to this. He's under 40% potentially owned, and he's under 6% in the captain potentially. So that kind of so now that we have that information, if this was a day ago and we didn't have any ownership projections, we would probably be more likely to fade him. But knowing that a quarterback who touches the ball every time in a high total or medium to high total game is under 40% owned, I would rather get Carson Wentz over like some of these receivers that are high priced. So just
I'm right there.
You know what I mean? Same reason I picked Nick Foles yesterday, or I'm sorry, not Nick Foles, fucking Trubisky, same guy. Trubisky as my captain choice because he was under 5% owned and he touches the ball every time. You're never going to see that with quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks who have some talent. We're not talking about Ben DiNucci here. We're talking about Carson Wentz. He was the MVP if he didn't get injured a couple years ago. He has upside.
Yeah, he has rushing upside too. Look. Again, we'll get into this a little bit later. He's not a terrible play, right? In a 10.4, you're exactly right. He should be priced closer to 98 to 9,600.
Yeah.
So we could see ownership fall a little bit more off of that. Even Vegas thinks this is going to be just a shit fest blowout, right? So if that's the case, what the hell is
garbage
going
time
to do?
Yeah,
Look, we're looking for a Jameis Winston type performance. I know people talk shit about Winston, but I mean, throw for 350 yards. I don't give a shit if you throw 3 pick sixes, and just go throw 3 touchdowns.
Bro, his average attempts per game this season is 37.8 attempts per game. That's his average.
That's
he's
dumb.
He's gonna come out and throw the fucking ball.
That's not even his fault, right? So that's still on Doug Peterson, right? You can't have a quarterback throwing that many times in a game. Like I think maybe Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady are able to throw that many times and be efficient, but Carson Wentz can't do it. Anyways, I digress.
And look, Miles Sanders has been out for a minute. He's been out for a few weeks, so that probably contributed to that. There's been a ton of injuries on this team. I'm not going to give them a pass because of the injuries. A lot of teams are dealing with injuries right now, and they're overcoming it. But this team has been hit especially hard with injuries. They're starting to get a lot of their guys back, so maybe there's a chance at some of a momentum change. They can get a win here, get a win there. I just don't see it happening tonight, obviously. But maybe they can come out and play better than we thought they would play and keep this within a touchdown. If this game ends up within a touchdown, I feel like that's a win for them. I know there's no moral victories in football, but come on, this team is terrible. No one's giving them a chance to win. So just keep an eye on that.
East, there are moral victories, man.
That's
at
true.
This point, shit. I mean, anything will get you a division win in that. So, hey, look, I think you're right on. Before we get too off track here, I don't want to spend too much time on Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
But I do think you should, take a random dart throw on him. Put him in 1 or 2 lineups.
Definitely.
Go 3 quarterbacks. It's not going to be too crazy, right? He does have the potential to throw a couple passes and get a couple rush attempts, and I do think he's going to get more involved. Hey, look, the best way that the Eagles can win this game is if Carson Wentz is just tearing shit up, or if the Eagles are just running the ball well and just holding on and just playing ball control, right? Keep the ball out of Russell Wilson's hand. If you want to beat Seattle, that's how you do it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think we could see just random shit, just these stupid packages that get Jalen Hurts and Wentz both on the field.
Seattle's a good team, but they're not invincible. They make mistakes. They're not perfect. They're not a perfect team, and neither is is their coaching. Russell Wilson. Sorry, I had a total brain fart there. Russell Wilson is not perfect. He'll throw some picks here and there. I know he's in consideration for the MVP, but do you remember that Rams game? They found a way to put some pressure on him. So just keep an eye on that. I'm going to put Russell Wilson in pretty much every one of my lineups. That's not even a debate. Right. I'm not going to play him at captain, but there's a chance on the other side of things that he can make some mistakes, which can cause this game to be a little bit closer than we think it is. So let's move over to the running back situation for the Eagles. You got Miles Sanders at 9,200. It's a little high for him, but he's going to get a decent amount of volume. But also at the same time, like we just said, Carson Wentz throws the ball 37 times. Every time he throws that ball, Miles Sanders is not getting it. I know Miles Sanders has a chance every now and then to catch some receptions. Let's actually look at what are his targets like. So the last few weeks he's had 5 targets and 3 receptions, 2 receptions. Nothing to write home about. But look, he's getting an extra. On occasion, he'll get you 36 yards and 3 or 4 receptions. So that's worth an extra 6 points. That's a lot on a showdown slate. So keep an eye on Miles Sanders. I think 9,200 is slightly a little high for him, but I'm still willing to get there with him. Boston Scott at 1,000 is always a good option. And look, Corey Clement, this guy's a vulture king. $200 for Clement. I might sprinkle him in. He's not going to break the slate, but if you're going high ownership, high price in the captain, Corey Clement's worth the play at a punt at $200 in order to fit the rest of these guys in. How are you handling this?
Yeah, man. I love Miles Sanders. I know there's a little bit of negative correlation, kind of trying to get the underdog running back in a showdown lineup, but I still think Miles Sanders is probably the best player on the Eagles right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not saying much, but look, he's going to be key to this game. If the Eagles are going to stay competitive in this, he has to be involved. Which also makes it interesting for Boston Scott at 1K. Boston Scott's going to get 5 to 6 carries, and there's a good chance he'll have 2 or 3 targets, right? He's going to get involved in the pass game. He's their third down running back or spell back at the very least.
Yeah.
So I think he's interesting at 1K. And yeah, you're right, Corey Clement at 200. But I think all 3 of these guys are in play. I think it's going to be for some unique builds. I mean, shit, you can go Carson Wentz, Boston Scott, Miles Sanders, and then still be able to fit in probably Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson pretty cleanly.
Mhm.
So I think it's going to give you a little bit of build flexibility by doing this, but it's just a little bit more risky simply because they're the dogs. But again, I love Miles Sanders, man. I understand he's priced up, but he's just the best player on this team. I think he has the best opportunity for a ceiling game.
Yeah, I like Miles Sanders too here. I also really like Boston Scott. I'm not going to get too crazy with him. I think his ownership is reflecting that. You know, he's around 10% owned, which seems a little low to me. At $1,000, he's getting 40% of the snaps. At least last week he did. The week before he got around 25%. So it's fluctuating. I think it's game script dependent. I do like his upside. I like the fact that if this is a blowout, there's going to be more Boston Scott reps. There's going to be more checkdowns to him, more opportunity for him. And at $1,000, you just need 5 receptions, 50 yards, 15 yards on the ground, and then a random touchdown, and that'll get you into the optimal potentially with $1,000. So keep an eye on that. Clement, look, he's got a chance for a touchdown, but the probability of that happening is pretty low. There's a lot of mouths to feed. If you're playing 150 max, definitely get him involved. For me, I'm playing 40-something lineups. Maybe I'll have him in 1. You know what I mean? So let's move over to the other side of the ball. It's Seattle. This is a little bit more of a clear situation now. Chris Carson has been out for a minute. He's back. Carlos Hyde last Thursday was in the optimal. He ended up scoring a garbage time touchdown. Or it wasn't garbage time, but he lucked into a touchdown after a penalty. But he was getting a lot of volume. You got Travis Homer out, and then you have DJ Dallas, which I'm most likely not considering in this game. But you have Carson at 8,800, which is interesting. 8,800. He's cheaper than Miles Sanders. I think Chris Carson is probably a better player, and he has a better offense to run behind. So 8,800 is pretty interesting for him, but we're just going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to fade one of these guys, whether it be the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, one of these high-priced running backs. You're just going to have to make a decision on that. Carlos Hyde at 7K. I don't know that I like him at 7K. I think he's going to get, it's probably going to be a 70-30 situation. I mean, it depends. Chris Carson's just coming back. Maybe they want to ease him in. Maybe it could be a 60-40. Either way, at 7,000, the backup running back, who's probably going to get as much volume as Boston Scott at $6,000 more, I'm more likely to fade Carlos Hyde again. If you watch that Thursday night show against the Cardinals, I faded him. Didn't work out for me, but now I'm very comfortable fading Carlos Hyde in this situation. You got DJ Dallas at 800. Probably not going to get to him, especially considering you have Corey Clement for 200 on the other side of things. And you have DJ Dallas, which is just, almost the same price as Boston Scott. How are you handling this?
I like Chris Carson a lot at 8,800. I think, if I'm just being honest, I would expect Miles Sanders to have probably a little bit higher of initial ownership projection.
Yeah.
How accurate am I on that?
Well, he's yes, actually they're actually exactly the same. They're right around 50, a little less than 50.
Which is honestly kind of ridiculous given that Chris Carson is on the favorite. It's $400 less.
Totally.
And look, Seattle doesn't want the ball. We talked about it several times. They are 100% dependent upon the direction of Russell Wilson. If he's performing, this team is performing.
Yeah.
If he's not, this team is not. They don't want to do that. They want Chris Carson to get involved. If they want to make a deep playoff run, they need their running game involved. Pete Carroll knows that. And I fully anticipate that he's going to work on establishing the run this week.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people are talking about that on Twitter. And in fact, one of our viewers called that out on that Thursday night showdown and said that they liked the running backs a little bit more than we did because of that. And it turns out the viewer was right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind here. But with Carlos Hyde back, or with Chris Carson back, I think you can just X out Hyde and DJ Dallas.
Yeah.
Unless Carson fumbles or gets hurt, he is going to get a bulk of the carries. And at 8,800, Again, you could literally fade Miles Sanders, throw in Russell Wilson and Chris Carson, and capture all of the offense for Seattle.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that's fine. And honestly, I'm okay with a couple of 2-4 builds kind of that way. Throw Carson in the captain, Lockett or Russ in the flex, and then just run it back with 4 Eagles.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of a decent strategy tonight, considering Philly's going to be expected to throw to keep this going. So I agree with you. I think you're going to have to make a decision on which running back you want to play. But if they're coming in kind of even with Carson being cheaper and on the favorite, I don't know. I feel like he should be a little bit more owned than Miles Sanders. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I'll keep an eye on ownership throughout the day as always, but I like Carson a lot. The other two, I don't give a shit about.
Yeah, I hear you. Let's move over to wide receivers for the Seahawks. You got Tyler Lockett at 9,600, which is pretty good pricing for him. You got DK Metcalf, priced above most quarterbacks would be priced on a showdown slate at 11.4K. David Moore at 4,600 is very interesting. That's a pretty good price for him. And then you got Freddie Swain, who probably isn't even worth mentioning. I think this is the holy trinity of offense when it comes to the Seahawks. The only question is, look, typically speaking, Lockett and Metcalf are negatively correlated. Last Thursday, they were in the same, they were in the optimal lineup together. Can that happen again? Are you trying to aim to get both of these guys in your lineups? And if you do, who the hell are you fading? I mean, you're going to have to fade 2. You're going to only be able to get probably Russell Wilson, and then it's going to be a lot of 4-2 Seattle stacks, obviously, if you're going both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. But it doesn't leave you a lot of other room to get anybody else.
Yeah, I think DK is a fine play. Obviously, the guy's a grown-ass man. He can tear it up at any point. But at 11.4, again, I think that they're so dependent on Russell Wilson, and I think it's a toss-up between which one's going to go off between Lockett and Metcalf.
Yeah.
Just because last week you had a more balanced pass attack, I don't think that's something we can continue to expect.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, look, you had Carlos Hyde running the ball. So you had a little bit different offensive strategy.
You're right.
I think Chris Carson being back is going to kind of, they're going to taper back the amount of attempts that they have. So that means Lockett and Metcalf are going to have to make those attempts and targets a lot more productive to pay off. Metcalf especially at 11.4K.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to kind of see a regression back to kind of more typical Seattle offense where they run the ball half the time and pass the ball the other half, which honestly kind of bodes well for Tyler Lockett for me. I feel like at 9,600, and again, I think initial ownership projections had these two about even.
They're pretty close.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean Lockett
it's ridiculous.
Lockett is projected for 6 to 7% more, but when you get above 50,
he should be 15% at that price tag.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
this brings up another
$1,800 difference.
This brings up another good point though, because pay up to be different sort of a mentality. If DK Metcalf, if his ownership projections aren't getting there, because look, it might be hard to build with him. It just might be hard to get him in a lineup. You might have to go no quarterbacks, and I don't know that people want to do that. So depending on the way the builds come out, if DK Metcalf drops below 45%, I'm going to have to switch up my mentality and say, look, I love DK Metcalf. Do I want to not play him? Fuck no. Of course I want to play DK Metcalf. But he's too expensive, and will the value pay off? I don't know. But if it gets to under 45%, you're talking about a guy who can break the slate and can give you a clear advantage on the rest of the field. Now, Tyler Lockett can do the exact same thing. So it's one of those things, if there's a bigger spread between the two as we get closer to lock, if Tyler Lockett stays around that 55% and DK drops into the 40s, I might have to consider flipping that. I might have to consider going heavier on DK and going lower on Lockett. Keep an eye on the ownership. It's not hard to find this stuff. Roto-Grinders has $40 a month subscriptions. There's plenty of ownership projections out there. That's the most. If you don't have ownership projections, just in my opinion, don't play Showdown. That's just my opinion on things. If you're just building on your phone and you don't have any ownership projections, try to find those somewhere. Hit us up on Twitter. We can lead you in the right direction. But there's a lot of great options out there. Anything else to add with this? David Moore at 4,600. I like him. I like him.
Yeah, 100%. He's in play. And same thing for Freddie Swain. I'm a little bit more high on him than you are.
Okay.
But I definitely think that he's okay for 2 or 3 lineups at $200. But yeah, again, all of the wide receivers are in play because I think Russell Wilson has a tendency to just hit anybody at any time. So I think you're fine going whatever direction. I think a lot of it's going to depend on ownership, like you were saying, between the Metcalf and Lockett debate.
All right, so let's move over to Philadelphia side of the ball, the pass catchers. Seattle does not have a very good defense. Their secondary is not very good. As you can see, defense versus position ranked 31st. Seahawks are. So you got Travis Fulgham here at 6,800. That's insane. I actually didn't really realize he was priced at that point. That's so fucking low. You got Jalen Reagor at 5,800, Greg Ward at 5,200, and Alshon Jeffrey at 1,600. I'm not loving Greg Ward and Alshon Jeffrey here. I think Fulgham and Reagor are your guys if you're going to target anybody. If we look at their snap rate here, Fulgham 100% last week, 93% the week before. Reagor 100% last week, 90% the week before. Then you got Greg Ward, who's more in the 60s and 70s, so he is an option. I just don't. There's a lot of options on this slate, and I'd rather go with Fulgham or Reagor. Fulgham is a grown ass man too. Fulgham is he had his coming out party the same time Chase Claypool did. Fulgham is really freaking good. He's the best receiver on this team at 6,800. I'm actually going to be really high on him. Actually, now that I think about it, what are your thoughts here, Ben?
Yeah, man, I like Fulgham. I like Reagor. I really think that you're going to have a decent amount of one of these guys just because their price point is kind of so balanced.
Fulgham projected to be under 35% owned and under 7% in the captain.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's solid, especially at 6,800. I think he becomes a very interesting captain play if we can. If Carson Wentz can get there. The only thing that I do want to point out is the Seahawks secondary is getting a little bit more healthy, right? They got Jamal Adams back maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they're starting to kind of build some more consistency there. They also got Damon Snacks Harrison back on the defensive line, so that does impact the pass rush a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But at this price point for both these guys, I mean, I'll have a pretty healthy exposure. I'll probably have at least one of them in every lineup. It's just going to be hard not to.
I think you have to. I think this is the key to unlocking this slate, in my opinion. You have a bad Seattle secondary, and look, even if they have a above average defensive game, they're still going to give up probably 21 points. They're probably going to give up a couple of pass touchdowns. I highly anticipate them giving up 300 plus passing yards. So if that's the case, those yards have to go to someone. And I like Fulgham. I like Reagor. We'll get into the tight ends in a minute. I think Greg Ward at 5,200. He's getting a lot less opportunity, and he has a lot lower ceiling than Reagor. So I'd rather just pay up $600 and get to Reagor. But to be honest, I'm gonna force a rule to have at least one of these 3 guys, whether it be Fulgham, Reagor, or Ward, in every single lineup. Is that something you're going to be interested in doing, or are you going to be more organic about it?
I'll probably be a little bit more organic on it on my initial builds, but if the optimizer isn't kicking them out as much as I need them to, then I'll have to manually force that rule. But right now, I like to kind of just see how it'll play out and where the ownership or where the builds are kind of going to fall.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. But I think you're right. I think at the very least, Fulgham or Reagor in every lineup is probably going to be necessary.
I think so.
If not for anything other reason than price.
Look, if it's garbage time, we saw it last night. I keep saying this. Garbage time is hard to predict, obviously, but they're going to get some bullshit passes here and there. Even if you project this to be a blowout, it's even more reason, in my opinion, to play one of those guys, because those are the guys that are going to be getting these garbage time receptions. And even if it's a tight game, they're going to have to be in this game because of Fulgham, because of the Dallas Goddards, which we'll get into right now. Dallas Goddard's at 6,400, criminally underpriced. Should be, in my opinion, in the 7.5K area. And then you got Richard Rodgers, who's always a threat to catch a touchdown. He's a red zone threat for sure. I mean, look, let me look at this ownership here on Goddard. Dude, fucking crazy. Under 30% owned. He's less than 5% in the captain. I think all the Eagles, if you put any Eagle with high upside in the captain spot tonight, you're gonna have a chance to win. Because look, can the Seahawks absolutely break the slate? Yes, they can. And Lockett, Metcalf, Wilson, obviously those guys are high owned for a reason, because the probability of them being the highest scoring player on the slate, very high. But this is one game. Anything can happen. And with the ownership being so fucking low on the Eagles, I really like jamming a lot of Eagles into this game. And if I lose, I'll move on, but I got to use leverage in Showdown. How are you handling Goddard here and Rodgers?
I think both are in play. I love Goddard. I always have. I think he's a great option. Especially at the captain spot at that price point, 6,400.
Oh yeah.
I think he gives you a lot of flexibility, and I'm always a sucker for tight ends on showdown slates.
Tunyon last night too.
Yeah, exactly. And then Richard Rodgers. I mean, he had a touchdown last week, right?
And Goddard had a touchdown last week too.
Yeah, I think these guys are both in play. You can put them in the same lineup.
Absolutely,
it's not even that crazy.
This is the equivalent.
Together, it's less. It's still less than running Chris Carson.
Totally, and this is the equivalent of Ertz and Goddard. I would love to run Ertz and Goddard in the same lineup on a showdown slate. They're just not available. So the next best option is getting Richard Rodgers at dirt cheap, market price here at 1,800. You're right; they're cheaper than Chris Carson. So I'd like to get both of these guys together, in my opinion. This is a great option here. The Eagles, I know they're not a very good team. I know it's a tough matchup for them. From a fantasy side of things, they're way underpriced. I don't see them coming out and only scoring 10 points in this game. I see it 24 points probably. But the problem is the Seahawks are probably going to score 35. They're probably going to score 42. Let's move over to the other side of things. Seattle. This is a little bit more of a muddy situation here. You got Jacob Hollister, who's a good option. He's at 1,400. If you've watched the show before, we like Will Dissly. Will Dissly has a high ceiling, in my opinion. He's still sort of coming back. He's healthy, but maybe he's working his way back into that number one role that he was in last year, and when he was sort of a great fantasy option. But he's 3,600. Both of these guys. The tight end situation on this slate, I'm probably gonna go pretty heavy on tight ends on this slate because they're so low price, and I absolutely see multiple touchdowns being funneled to this position in this game. Jacob Hollister at 1,400. I think he's going to be higher owned, but Dissly is I think he's less than 5%. That's just crazy in my opinion. How are you handling this?
Dude, both of these guys are in play. I think both are viable. Hollister at 1,400 is super cheap, and it looks like he's projected for more points than Will Dissly, which is interesting.
And Hollister's under 20%.
Yeah, I think both are in play, but if Will Dissly is really under 5%, that's easy to go double or quadruple the field on, right?
Oh yeah.
At 3,600 again, let's look at the kickers real quick. Jason Myers is 4,200 and Jake Elliott is 4,000. So I don't think you're doing anything wrong by playing Will Dissly instead of one of the kickers. It's going to give you a little bit more upside. You have that touchdown possibility. And again, let's see what's he going to be on the field for. Let's see.
Rodgers, he's going to be, he's under 40% sort of guy. Especially with Goddard in, he's probably 35% of the time he's on the field. He doesn't get that many routes run. You're talking about Rodgers, right? Richard Rodgers? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I was looking at Will Dissly.
Oh shit. Well, that's good information in addition. But Dissly last week had 66% of the snaps and Hollister had 22. Week 10, Dissly was 44% and Hollister was 8%. Now look, that's with Greg Olsen as well. So obviously Dissly is going to probably elevate a little higher into maybe the 70s and Hollister into the 40s. I don't get why Hollister is projected more.
Will Dissly had 43 snaps. in the game against Arizona. Even before then, the week prior, he had 24, 21, and then 43, 49. So, like, if he's going to be on the field 40-plus plays and I have to rely on a kicker to be on the field 9 plays, sure, I understand those 9 plays are all scoring opportunities. But I definitely think that Will Dissly is viable, especially at that ownership. That seems kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think all of these tight ends are in play, just as long as we're not getting into just the random guys. I think the 1 and the 2s. Yeah, all 4 of those.
All 4 of those guys. I am going to be heavy on a lot of these guys. I'm actually and fully anticipating you'll see our captain choices here, but a guy like Goddard in the captain, and even running it back with Dissly or Hollister, or even putting Goddard and Rodgers in the same lineup. I think this is another position that can unlock the slate because of the pricing, as well as the Eagles side of the wide receivers. That's also the side that you can, if you can figure out that, you can probably win the slate. All right, so let's move over to kickers and defense. Not much to talk about here. In my opinion, just like you just said, Jason Myers for Seattle is 4,200. Jake Elliott's 4K straight up. There's so much value on this slate. I don't want a lot of these guys at all because they're projected double some of the guys we just mentioned who are much cheaper. What ends up happening a lot is, if you're using an optimizer, they're gonna plug these guys in more than the Will Disleys or the Hollisters because of the median projection. They have a higher floor as kickers. So just generally speaking, they're going to be inflated in ownership. And in a game like this, I just think that this is going to be a little bit higher scoring game than Vegas thinks it's going to be. That's what I think. So you take what you think. If you think it's going to be a lower scoring game, get more kickers. That's how the game script works for you. But me, I'm going to say that, look, I think that this can be a little bit of a shootout. I think that Seattle can win pretty easily, maybe by 10 points or more. But I think it's going to be close. In the third quarter, I think it's going to be a one-score game. So to me, kickers, no thanks. With all the value, and defense, no thanks. Now look, the Seahawks, I would consider playing the Seahawks defense. They're at 3,800, but once again, like I just said, I think that you can find a player in that price range that I think can score more points than Seahawks defense. The one thing you're really hoping for is a fumble recovery, an interception for a touchdown. You're going to have to get 5 sacks, something like that. If you think Seattle can really harass Carson Wentz, I think it's possible. I just don't like the value at 3,800. I think there's higher value. How are you handling kickers and defense here?
Yeah, look, for kickers, obviously I think they're in play. You may need to play one every once in a while to kind of balance out your lineups and get some of the savings that you need. I won't be prioritizing them. I'll try and cap them probably close to 20-25%.
Yeah.
And then just let it fall where it may from there. Excuse me. Defense. This is going to sound kind of ridiculous, but at 2,800, I think the Eagles aren't terrible. I'm not going to run 2 or 3 lineups with them, or any more than 2 or 3. I just think they're going to have the opportunity for some sacks that they can, get a takeaway here and there. They do have the opportunity to go from there.
Yeah.
At least get some points. But again, I don't know how crazy I'm going to be there. I think that's more for a 150 max. And then the Seahawks defense at 3,800 again. Won't be prioritizing them at all, but I think they're worth a flyer on just because who knows what Carson Wentz we're going to get.
Yeah.
We could get the Fumblerooski pick machine.
Yeah.
We could get Mark Sanchez essentially, or we can get
Joe
Carson
Montana.
Wentz,
Yeah.
Right. Like a guy who actually has the potential to be a top NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like he's more inconsistent than Mitch Trubisky. So
Yeah. All right, well, let's get on to our fade of the night here.
What's your name? Tony! Fuck you, Tony!
All right, who are we fading here, Ellie? Go first. DK Metcalf, tell me about that. That just sounds crazy, right? Oh, you're watching this video. Why the fuck would you fade DK Metcalf? That's crazy. You guys suck. Tell me why.
Yeah, man. Well, mostly because I got to keep my Allen Robinson streak alive from last night, right? Why not just keep fading the number 1 wide receiver on these teams?
Yeah.
Look, man, DK Metcalf's expensive. I really expect Pete Carroll to come in and just focus on running the ball. I think it'll be a huge win for the Seattle offense and just their team morale overall if they can run the ball well against this strong defensive line. And I really think that Pete Carroll is going to focus on controlling the game. Now, don't get me wrong. That does not mean that I think DK Metcalf is not going to go off. But I think it's kind of difficult to guess that. Trying to guess between Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf is already difficult.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll just take the essentially $2,000 discount. Run Tyler Lockett, and I think I'll be okay. But again, as you pointed out earlier, it's something I'll be mindful of as we get closer to lock. If Metcalf ownership starts dropping because he's so high priced, then my fate of the night is not going to be Metcalf. So let's just be very clear.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, Metcalf at 50+% ownership, you're not going to have zero of this guy. You're probably going to be in the 30% on this guy. And the only reason why is because you have to make a choice. But in your opinion, you have to make a choice between Lockett and Metcalf. Lockett is much cheaper. They're projected around the same ownership. It's probably smarter to go with Lockett. There's a chance they both go off. Close your laptop and move on. Chris Carson, for me, it's a game script thing. Also, it's the unknown. We don't know how truly healthy Chris Carson is. In my opinion, this game is going to be more of a passing attack. I don't know that Chris Carson is going to get as many carries as you would need for that price tag. 8,800 is not incredibly high, but you're going to have to fade Tyler Lockett, or you're going to have to leave one of these quarterbacks out, or you're going to have to completely punt with a $200 guy like a Corey Clement. I'm just not comfortable doing that. So in my opinion, I would rather get under the field on Chris Carson. His ownership is coming in. It's pretty high, man. His ownership is above Carson Wentz. So to me, if I can switch out Carson Wentz with Chris Carson as far as ownership goes, actually, I'm going to be a lot lower on Chris Carson. To me, I'm probably going to go in the 15% range on Chris Carson today. And that's ballsy. He can easily get 2 touchdowns. My day can be over. But I need to make a stand. I'm not just going to spread out across the board and say, you know what, maybe one of these lineups will hit. Just take a stand on Carson. If he goes down, if he fumbles, if Hyde ends up getting 50% of the carries, my leverage is so damn high right off the bat. I don't have to worry about getting a lottery ticket cashed with a $200 guy scoring a touchdown.
And I do want to call out one more thing. In none of my lineups will I be fading. Well, okay, I take that back. I don't plan on fading both of these guys in the same lineup consistently for tonight's show, right?
Yes.
So I do want to point that out as well, right? If we're not playing Chris Carson, we're probably stacking up as much of the passing game as we can possibly get for Seattle.
Totally.
And if we're not playing DK Metcalf, it's because I'm probably trying to get more Chris Carson, Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson, right? So we're not looking to fade both these guys. I mean, it absolutely is viable if you think that's the game script that's going to work out. But just keep in mind that these are literally placeholders based on our initial observations of ownership projections and just
news
usage, target shares, and whatever, right? These could become our captains of the night by the time we get to lock. So pay attention to us on Twitter, join the Discord, right? Comment on us, right? Comment on our stuff. We're trying to interact so that we can make sure that you're aware of updates and changes that we might make.
Yeah.
Again, last night I didn't adjust quick enough to the A-Rob news, or to the fact that A-Rob wasn't meeting his ownership projections. But if I see that DK Metcalf falls to sub 35%, is under 5% of the captain, you bet your ass I'm going to be playing the shit out of him. So again, just stay tuned and keep engaging with us if you have questions. We're going to try and make sure that you're informed as best we can. But again, it's 12 Eastern, and we're trying to make our best initial reviews of the slate right now.
Exactly. All right, let's move over to our captain choice here.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, Miles Sanders is your choice. Take it away, brother.
Yeah, man. Again, this is more of a placeholder for me. I'm going to be looking a little bit closer at the slate, but just based on everything that I'm seeing, I anticipate Miles Sanders' ownership to kind of drop as we get closer to lock. It's kind of a risky expectation, but if he can fall into that 6 to 5% captain mark, which I think is very possible given the fact that I expect line movement towards Seattle. I don't think that we're going to have enough ownership on the running back for Philly. I think he is the best player on the offense, and I think he gives them the best opportunity to stay competitive. And just from a game script perspective, I honestly think that the Eagles are also going to try to establish the run so they can keep the ball away from the talented playmakers on the Seattle sideline.
Yeah.
So if they can keep the offense on the sideline, Miles Sanders is probably having a good day. If this game is competitive, it's either Miles Sanders or Carson Wentz. So I think I'm hoping to leverage the fact that Doug Peterson should be making decisions to take some stress away from Carson Wentz. Like, if Miles Sanders is active, he should not be throwing the ball over 32 times. And by he, I mean Carson Wentz, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, not
Yeah,
Sanders. So you just keep an eye on that. Again, this is more of a safer play than we usually go at captain, but I definitely think we're going to see some ownership movement for him.
He's still under 10%, and that's our area that we like to target. I like to go a little lower than that, but 10% on a game like this, especially if you're considering stacking Eagles, if you're doing a 4-2, you don't have to worry about dupes at all. If you're Russell Wilson's going to be 25% in the captain. If that's the case, that you're going to have to get really different. But a guy at 8%, a guy at 10%, you're not going to have to worry too much about it. So for me, I'm going Dallas Goedert. We all know he has a high ceiling. We all know that a guy playing tight end with a quarterback that's struggling, he's got a high upside. He's going to get targeted quite a bit. We've seen him go off. He hasn't had the greatest year so far this year, but last year he had a touchdown. He was targeted quite a few times last year. And look, the most important thing here is the price and the ownership, right? So he's priced at 6,400, and his ownership is super low. His ownership is under 30%, and he's probably going to be less than 5% in the captain. To me, that's just crazy. Throughout the day, if it starts to rise, if people start to realize that it's a little bit, that he's a really good play, it might go up, but I don't see it going up above 5%. To me, Goddard, I'm going to have 60+% of him in my captain. Most of the time we play these picks, obviously subject to change based on ownership, but when I say Goddard, when I say I like Goddard, I'm going to play him a lot. So we're putting our money where our mouth is here. Another good option to me would be Fulgham, especially at that ownership and at that price. Fulgham's more around the 6 or less, or 7% or less in the captain. But you're talking about a guy who will be targeted quite a bit. I mean, these guys are both on the same plane as far as upside. But I think Fulgham has a higher upside. But with Dallas Goedert being under 5% owned, you just got to play him, in my opinion. And look, another guy too is Wentz. Wentz is another good option, because similar to our Trubisky last night. Trubisky being so low owned in the captain. Look, did he get there in the first half? No, but garbage time pays off sometimes, and he ended up getting to a decent price. I ended up cashing min cashing with a lot of those lineups simply because of garbage time. And if Carson Wentz is really under 8% owned in the captain, that's just crazy. To have a quarterback that low. Now, I know he's expensive, so it makes your building a little bit more difficult. And we're talking Draftkings here. Obviously, FanDuel, there's no reason to not play a quarterback at the MVP position. But on FanDuel or on Draftkings, you have you're penalized. You're 1.5 times the salary, as well as 1.5 times the points. So, Ellie, any other options that you might consider at captain, just to spread it out a little bit? Like, I know you usually end up with like 2 or 3 that you go heavy on. Where are you going to lean on those other 2?
So you're not going to get anything different from me than what you just said. I like Carson Wentz. I think he's a decent option, and kind of just to support some of the other picks that we have. I think Travis Fulgham is absolutely viable at his price. And even with kind of the more with the offense stabilizing a little bit with some of these players returning, he still had 7 targets last week against Cleveland. So again, he's getting opportunities to get involved in the past games. So I don't think he's a terrible play. Dallas Goedert had 6 targets last week. Miles Sanders had 5. Rieger had 5.
Yeah.
honestly, I'm probably going to be sticking to captains from Seattle
Eagles.
specifically, or I'm sorry,
Eagles.
Philly.
Yeah.
But another one that you can do, again, if ownership isn't too crazy, is Chris Carson is not going to be a terrible captain. At 8,800 and just at 8,800, it's not bad. He is going to be a little bit more chalky, but again, it depends on the game script. I think this is a slate you can kind of just do whatever you want. Not to get too weird here, but I think you're going to have to kind of really just make a stand on who you think is actually going to be involved in the game, and who's going to play well, right? So I think if I'm ranking them, I like Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, Carson Wentz, and then Travis Fulgham.
So let's get into a lineup build. I think we'll talk a little bit more about roster construction here while we're building. Let's start off with Miles Sanders. Now, look, you can do a 2. In this particular case, I don't really love Miles Sanders being in the captain. I don't love doing a 2-4. And when we say 2-4, 2 is the captain. The first number is the captain position, and the second number is the flex, however many you have in the flex. So in this case, it would be 2 Eagles, 1 being in the captain, and 4 Seattle players. I think maybe this is, what do you think here? Should we do a 4-2 here? Like, how do we handle the Miles Sanders roster construction at captain?
Yeah, I think 4-2 is fine. Look, I honestly think if we're heavy Eagles, you can, if you're running 4-2 Philly way, I don't think it's going to be necessary to get as different at the captain spot.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go Wentz, I think. I think we like Wentz here. I think we got to go Russell. Actually, we don't have to go Russell. Look, if we're doing a 4-2, we're doing 2 on Seattle. You don't have to do Russell. I think it's really risky. But in my opinion, I think for this particular build, we should do Russell Wilson. So who else are we getting? Do you want to go? Who else do you want to get on wide receiver wise for this team? For the Eagles.
For the Eagles, honestly, I would actually prefer to go Boston Scott because we need to save some money here.
Okay, so let's go. I love this. Sanders and Scott in the same lineup. I love that, especially with $1,000. So we should go Fulgham or Rieger, or Fulgham, Rieger, or Goddard. Who do you like?
I think I like Goddard in this particular build.
Okay, let's go Goddard. All right, that leaves us with 5,800 from Seattle. We got to find a Seattle player for 5,800.
I mean, look, we're trying to leave salary on the table a little bit. I don't max out my salary anymore on showdowns. I'm okay with throwing in David Moore.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty risky lineup. Obviously, we're fading all the wide receivers from Seattle. We're fading Chris Carson. This is a very risky lineup. This is a milli maker sort of lineup, and you need a lot to happen. So let's switch it up a little bit here. Let's go 3-3. Let's go 3-3 here, just to make it a little bit more manageable. So we've got our 3. We've got our Miles Sanders, Carson Wentz, and Boston Scott. Let's get 2 other. Let's get at least. Let's put in Lockett at least, right? And then let's go to tight end and grab Hollister.
I like it.
Unless there's another cheaper option on Seattle. But this is a little bit more of a balanced lineup, and with Sanders, under 10% owned, this probably will still be unique. You won't have a lot of dupes, especially Sanders and Boston Scott in the same lineup. This is a good option. All right, let's switch over to Goddard at captain. Let's see if so. First of all, Miles Sanders, building with Miles Sanders at captain is a little bit awkward. Would you agree? Like, we're just finding this out. Like, oh wait, maybe this isn't a great roster construction. So let's move over to Goddard and see what we can get here. Let's see. Where are you, Dallas? There he is. All right. So with a guy this low owned, we can go 3-3 as well, and plus he's cheap. So do we want to just jam both quarterbacks in to start?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, both quarterbacks are in. Let's get DK Metcalf in this one. Let's just see if we can build this. We're gonna have to find ways to get DK Metcalf in lineups. So we got 3,000 left. Let's go let's find value at tight end here. Do you want to go Rodgers?
Yeah, I think Rodgers is a decent play there. And then, let's see.
Especially with Goddard at captain, you got Rodgers in the flex. Obviously negatively correlated, but definitely going to be unique. That leaves us with 4,200. We don't have to get another Seattle player. I'd prefer to get another Seattle player, but that leaves us with if you want to get crazy with it, you can go Will Dissly here.
Yeah, man, I don't think that's terrible because, dude, here's the thing, right? Is you got to do something. You've got a lot of the raw points that you're getting from Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, and DK Metcalf. If you wanted to, I think you have the raw points that you need. Daniel Goddard obviously needs 2 touchdowns or a touchdown to make this lineup viable. But
yeah,
Russell Wilson can easily hit Will Dissly on a 1-yard touchdown pass, and he won't see the field the rest of the game, which is exactly what you're looking for at 3,600. And honestly, I don't think that's going to be the case because I think Dissly is going to be on the field.
Go ahead, bro. Sorry.
No, and then you look at the other 2 tight ends on the other side. They're going to be on the field almost all night. Rodgers is going to see the field 40 to 50% of the night. Goddard's going to be out there for 90 to 95% of the time. So I definitely think you're getting a lot of red zone targets by doing that, and then you're capturing all of the offense the other way as well with having the quarterbacks.
Exactly. Let's try one little thing here. I want to get rid of Wilson. I want to put Lockett in. I want to get rid of Wilson because there is a circumstance where we just don't need Russell Wilson. Lockett gets a high volume, Metcalf gets a high volume, and they way outscore Wilson, and then you got garbage points from Wentz. Let's put in. Can we get Carson? And who's a $200 guy that we like? Can we do something like
Swain?
Can we do something like this, or can we do something like Swain here? Is he 200? Yeah. Look at that. So look, you got Lockett, Metcalf, and Carson, and then run back with Goddard at captain, Wentz. You're capturing all those offensive points, and then you get a random, couple receptions from Freddie Swain that can put you over the top. These are large field tournaments. This isn't your cash lineup. This isn't your single entry lineup. These are large field tournaments. Keep that in mind. We're building to be unique on Showdown. We don't want to split with 200 other people. We don't want to split the Millie Maker and lose money. That's not our goal here. At the same time, we don't want to play too stupid, but I like this lineup. I think it's pretty good. All right, Ellie. Anything to add to this slate? How do you think this game's going to go down? We'll lead us out here with a prediction.
I think we're going to see this game is going to be 34-27. I think Seattle's going to win. And I think it's going to be close in the end because of garbage time from Philly.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think this game will probably be around 14 points in the second half, and then you'll get a random Philly touchdown with an onside kick, and they'll run the clock out in victory formation sort of a thing. But I think it'll be 35 to maybe 27. 35 to 28, something like that. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than people think. But I'm pretty confident saying the Seahawks are going to win this game. I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Hit us up on Twitter. And thank you so much. Keep an eye on that ownership. Keep an eye on injury news. We'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot.